In the Seder this week of Pekudei, which closes the Sefer of Shemos, we're told that after Klal Yisrael completed amassing and donating anything and everything that was required for the Mishkan, Vayasu b'nei Yisrael k'chol asher tziva Adonai es Moshe kein asu, vayaviu es Mishkan Moshe. They brought everything to Moshe Rabbeinu. Es ha'ov, es kol kelo, krasov, krashav, brichav, amudav, v'adonov. Brought anything and everything that was to be found in the construct of the Mishkan and in the service therein. Explains Rashi, why did they bring the Mishkan to Moshe Rabbeinu? Because they were simply unable to put it up. It was too heavy. It was too large. Continues Rashi, the planks, the walls of the Mishkan were too imposing, too large. No one could have stood them up properly. Amar Moshe fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Moshe turned to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and said, no man could possibly erect the Mishkan. Amar lo, to which HaKadosh Baruch Hu responded, Asok ata, you go about setting it up. Go through the motions of setting it up. And nirakim ekimo, as if indeed you are actually setting it in place. And indeed the Mishkan will arise on its own. In fact, the Sister Chachamim points out that throughout the journey of the 40-year trek in the Midbar, when they erected the Mishkan and dismantled the Mishkan, how were they able to put it up? Says the Sister Chachamim, quoting the Minchas Yehuda, from the day that Moshe Rabbeinu went through the motions of putting it up and it was erected, each and every trip, the people who were charged, the Bnei Levi were charged with putting it up, they indeed went through the same motions. What exactly was the HaKadosh Baruch Hu teaching Moshe Rabbeinu in this endeavor, going through the motions? Perhaps he was teaching them a lesson that I learned from my rabbi in 7th and 8th grade. I had a rabbi in 7th and 8th grade who taught us by example, who imbued us with such an ahavas Torah, such a love of Torah. I went to an institution that in those times was known as Highlight, the Hebrew Institute of Long Island. It was a co-ed institution which separated the boys and the girls from grades 5 and upwards in the Mudei Kodesh. And in this 7th and 8th grade combined shiur, Rabbi Zvulun David Lieb, Olav HaShalom, Zichrono Livracha, came in. He was a young man. He had learned in Yeshiva V'chai in Berlin and elsewhere. He would come in wearing his long kapata. In those days, Far Rockaway didn't see many kapatas. He had a beautiful beard, a kapata. He would learn with us. He would teach us. And during the break, he would reach into his kapata and he would take out the New York Times. Such an unusual individual. And during shiur, he would imbue us with such a love for what we were learning. He would always tell us, boys, never say that Rashi doesn't make sense, the Gemara doesn't make sense. Say that you don't understand the Gemara, you don't understand the Rashi. And we had such an ahava, such a respect for him, such a love for him, such a yira, such a fear and reverence for him, that in those days when the large buckles came out on belts and everyone was wearing bell bottoms, I remember that when I got my large buckle belt, I wore a sweater over it in order that the Rebbe shouldn't see it. And even if boys were wearing smaller yarmulkes in those times, we switched to larger yarmulkes when we came into shiur for Rebbe to see us appropriately. And I remember when, in those days, Rabbeim made house calls to have meetings with the parents to discuss how their takshatils, how their sons were doing. I remember that I begged my parents, please take the console TV that was to be found in almost every living room in those years. Please move it out of the living room. I don't want Rebbe to see it. Or please cover it up at least. Drape a cloth over it. Because Rabbi Leib used to tell us that television really stood for tail vision. Sof, the N of vision. And came Erev Shabbos on Fridays, he would turn to the boys and he would say, close your Gemaras. We're going to sing now. Really? 7th and 8th grade boys are going to sing? That's one of the most uncoolest things you can imagine. But he would say to us, we're going to sing now. And he would start, Lule Saroscha Shashoy Ozavarati Ba'ani. And we would sing with such fervor and such tamimuskai. And those boys who were in his shiur, so many of them, indeed became Klei Kodesh. And even if they didn't involve themselves officially, professionally as it were, in Habratzas HaTorah, Torah Samum Nasa, They took on a kvias itim b'Torah that stayed with them for the rest of their lives, because we had such a love and reverence for a person who instilled within us the understanding that we could be more than whom we thought we were. Said HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Moshe Rabbeinu, I know that it's tall, 10 amos tall each keresh. And notwithstanding the Gemaras in Shabbos and Brachos that tell us that Moshe Rabbeinu was 10 amos tall, and that's how he was able to erect it. 10 amos tall, by the way, would be, give or take, 17 and a half feet tall. Kadosh Baruch Hu said to Moshe Rabbeinu, if you want to do something in life, specifically in your avodas Hashem and serving the Almighty, then do all that you can do and take all that whom you are and put it into the effort. And you'll see that it will be niskaf me'elav, that you'll be able to accomplish it. Because I, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, will help you. I read this morning that Rabbi Lee was nifter. And I never made the opportunity, since I was younger than Bar Mitzvah, to tell him just what kind of rosh and what kind of impact he had upon me. 7th grade, we learned Makos, the entirety of Makos, with every single Rashi. How many yeshivas, no matter what yeshiva it is, learns an entire Masechta like Makos with every single Rashi? In 8th grade, we learned Klal Gadol, the Malachos of Shabbos. How much he infused us with a love for Torah, with a love for Hashem Yisborach. How much he taught us that indeed we were so much and could be so much than we thought we were already. And because of that, how many mishkanos, how many beautiful homes of Torah were built based upon the foundation that he provided us with, and go forward, sharing it with others, the light of Torah with Hakamas HaMishkan. Tehei Nishmas Tzura B'Tzor HaChayim. Have a wonderful Shabbos.